In this video, we're going to take a look at the process for working with color-dependent plot style tables in AutoCAD and also how to create them. To begin with, I'm going to look at the Page Setup Manager for this particular layout that I'm on. I'll right-click on its tab and go to Page Setup Manager, then modify it. And you can see in the upper right corner of my plot dialog box, I have the Plot Style Table section. Currently, this is set to None. Now, there are lots of choices here that we'll get to in just a moment, but I want to talk about what None means. What None means is that it is actually going to print based upon the way the objects were created. So, for example, if I open up my Layer Properties Manager, as I take a look at all of these layers, it's going to print them exactly as they're shown here. Now, this might not be very optimal for a couple of different reasons. First of all, they all have the default line weight, so every object is going to print with the same thickness. That's typically not what we want from a drafting standards standpoint. We want object lines to print thicker than dimension and center lines, for example. Another big problem that we have is that it is going to print all of the colors. So it is going to print center lines in yellow, for example, which will be very difficult to see. Now, if you're thinking I'm not printing to a color printer anyways, well, it is going to print them in shades of gray. So the yellow will still be difficult to see. So rather than change everything by object, we can use plot style tables to set this up the way that we want to print. So once again, I'll right-click on the Layout tab and go to Page Setup Manager and Modify and choose a plot style table. One thing I can try is monochrome. If I choose monochrome, everything is going to print in black. So if I click OK and close and do a print preview, you can see that everything is going to print black. So there's no differences, there's no shades of gray, it's just everything is going to be black. You can also see that the line weights are all the same, so we haven't fixed that issue just yet. So I'll go back to the Page Setup Manager again and try a different one. This time I will choose grayscale. And then I'll click OK and close. Once again, if I go to print and do a preview, this time you can see I'm going to get shades of gray. So those yellow center lines, when it prints, they are going to be a very light gray and difficult to see. Also, still no differences in line weights, so I'm going to back out of this one as well. One other thing that you can do with the Page Setup Manager is you can choose to display your plot styles. When you do this, you won't need to do a print preview. It will automatically show your layout how it's going to print. So what I'm going to do next is set up my own plot style table. And for this one, I want it to act similar to the monochrome where everything prints in the same shade of black, but I also want it to have different line weights. This is going to be done by color. So I have to think about the colors that each of these objects are in. My object is white, my center lines are yellow, dimension and hatching red, etc. So with that in mind, I am going to right-click on my A-size layout and go back into my Page Setup Manager. I'm going to modify it, and I am going to create a new plot style table. Now I'm just going to start this one from scratch, but if I have another one I could import them in and work from those. I'll go ahead and give it a name, so I'll just simply call mine Mechanical. Then I'll click Next. Then I want to use my plot style table editor. That brings up this dialog box, and basically what I want to do is for each color I want to tell AutoCAD how to print those objects. So in the case of red objects, instead of printing it in the object's color, I want it to print black. So that gives me that monochrome feel. On the line weight, instead of using the object's line weight, I want it to print at 0.5 millimeter. Next I'll go to color 2. The yellow, you'll remember, are the center lines, so I want those to print black as well. And I don't want them as thick as the red line, so I'm going to go with 0.3 millimeters here for my line weight. Next we'll go to color 4. This is probably my hidden lines, so I'm going to set those to print to black as well, and also at 0.3 millimeters. Color 5 is blue. That might be my border, so I want those to be a little bit thicker. I want them to print black and at 0.5 millimeters. And then finally color 7, black or white, depending on the background color of your drawing, is going to print in black, and it is going to be 0.7 millimeters. I'll go ahead and save and close this, then click Finish. You can see that it's set it as the current style, and I do have it set to display plot styles, so I'll click OK, then close. So if I take a look at my drawing, since I selected the option to display the plot style tables, you can see that it's displaying it at least in shades of gray. It's not quite exactly what I want because I want to be able to see the line weights, and I'm expecting everything to be black. So I'm going to take a look at my actual print preview here. I'll go to Print and select Preview. And this is a better judge of what the print is going to look like. So as I look at this now, I can see everything is black, and I can also really see the differences in the line weights. Now it might look a little bit exaggerated in your print preview, but when I print it out, I should be able to tell the difference between object lines and hidden lines and center lines, etc. Plus, they won't print yellow or light gray, so they'll be really easy to see. The real time savings is when you've created that plot style table and can apply it to other drawings. So if I switch to another tab, if I want it to look the same way, I don't have to do all the steps again. I can just simply go to Page Setup Manager, modify it, and then select the mechanical plot style table from the list. Click OK and close, and once again, if I were to go to Print and do a preview, then we can see that it's also set up to print black with the appropriate line weights. I'll go ahead and close my print preview and close my Page Setup Manager to get back to the original drawing. It's also important to note that you should adhere to company drafting standards. So while you now know how to create and modify plot style tables, it doesn't necessarily mean that you should. So hopefully a company will have their standards, they'll have it all set up, and as a drafter, all you need to do is select the appropriate style. That concludes this look at working with color-dependent plot style tables in AutoCAD.